Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Amanda Lamb. In today's deep dive conversation with investigative reporter and documentary producer Cristin Severance, we're going to talk about people who are still struggling years after hurricanes destroyed their homes in North Carolina. The new WRAL doc, Aftermath, North Carolina Hurricane Victims Left Behind, airs at 7:30 on WRAL this evening and on the WRAL documentary YouTube channel at 8 o'clock. Cristin, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So tell me why you decided to jump into this topic.
You know, when you think about this, it has been 6 years since Hurricane Matthew, 4 years since Florence, and there are thousands of people still waiting to go home in North Carolina. You know, these people signed up for a state program called Rebuild NC. The entire point of this state agency is to help low-income people without insurance, get back into a safe place to live. And they were promised help. They thought they were going to get help, and they have been waiting this entire time. And I think this is why we do our jobs, right? We need to let people know that this is happening. And most importantly, we need to find out why. We need to press state officials. We need to sit down with the governor and we need to ask, why is this happening?
Yeah, I mean, I covered both of these hurricanes, the ones you're focusing on, which is Hurricane Florence and Hurricane Matthew. And it is just so hard to believe that there's no relief for these victims. What is the scope of the problem and what are you learning about why this is taking so long?
You know, it really depends on who you ask on why it's taking so long. So there are lawmakers now investigating what's happened with Rebuild. There is this legislative oversight committee. It's a 12-member committee, and they're looking into it. They believe, when I interviewed them, it's incompetence. It's, you know, some changes were made to the process, and Rebuild did make some changes, but they made them way too late. You know, we all know what happens. You know, think of a problem like a pebble, and then if it keeps rolling down the hill and, you know, gathering more moss and growing and growing and growing, it becomes this boulder. And that's what many people said happened with Rebuild. Now, Rebuild NC is saying, look, it's taking so long to get people into homes because of COVID, because of we can't get contractors to bid on these projects. Lumber shortage. But lawmakers are saying, look, this office was created in 2018.
It's time.
It's right. COVID did not hit until 2020. And so I think it really depends on who you ask. But, you know, and homeowners are saying, clearly something is wrong. You know, we signed up for this program. We were supposed to get into homes. And, you know, these homes, some of them had to be torn down. Some of them are mobile homes. You know, they're on wheels. You could drag it out and put a new one there.
Right.
And that's just not happening.
That's amazing. So, I mean, my first question when I hear all of this is, where are they living? Like, while they're waiting for this, where are they living?
So this really is the saddest part. They are living in hotels and motels. And I'm not talking 5-star hotels here, okay? These are 1- and 2-star places. One room. You know, we spent time with a family who spent 3 years in a hotel. They have no stove. They have a tiny fridge, and these people had a home. This is Willie and Geraldine Williams. They had an entire home on property that their families could visit, that all of their things.
So are they paying for the motels?
No, the state
is. Okay.
And I'm glad you asked that because, you know, so basically this agency is in charge of $800 million federal dollars. The entire point of the agency is to get people into homes. Well, at least $13 million has now been spent.
Right. That doesn't make sense. On the motels and the hotels, you could be using that money to rebuild.
Right. Think of how many homes these homes are $50,000.
Right.
You know, think of how many homes you could, and they just get the runarounds. You know, they get all these different case managers. They can't get answers on when a contractor will come. You know, the Willie and Geraldine Williams have been living in that hotel for 3 years. And Amanda, these people have health problems. Willie had a massive heart attack in the hotel. He has cancer again and is going through chemo. His wife does dialysis 10 hours a day, every day in the hotel.
Wow.
Imagine all these boxes stacked up for her dialysis in her hotel.
Right. So just a completely inappropriate place for them to be.
Exactly.
Given their circumstances.
Right.
So who did you talk to for the documentary?
A lot of people. We spent a lot of time with these families, people who are really at their wits' end. I mean, the second you are with them, you feel their desperation. So we spent a lot of time with families. We talked to lawmakers on the committee investigating what's happened. I interviewed Lisa Sorg. She's with NC Policy Watch. She's a reporter. She's done a whole series on this, and she was a really good resource on kind of like what happened and what went wrong. We interviewed lawmakers who are really fed up, and we sat down with the woman who runs Rebuild NC, Laura Hogshead, and we sat down with Governor Roy Cooper, and we really asked them, why is this happening, and is this acceptable? Why hasn't more been done for these people?
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like, you're trying to get those answers, trying to get to the bottom of it. We will be back after the break with more from Cristin Severance on the response from the state about this issue. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm talking with Cristin Severance about people who are still not back in permanent housing years after hurricanes hit North Carolina. So, Cristin, you sat down with a bunch of, high-level people about this to talk about this program. Mm-hmm. What did they say about where they are right now with the lack of rebuilding that's happening?
So we sat down with a lot of different state leaders. So first of all, you have all of these areas of the state where the hurricanes hit and the homeowners are waiting. Well, the homeowners are so fed up, they are now reaching out to lawmakers, basically begging for help. So we talked to senators, we talked to John Bell and Danny Britt, and they are kind of stepping in and trying to really help these homeowners. They are very clear about their frustration and what they believe that changes need to happen within Rebuild.
What about the governor? What did the governor say?
So the governor does not believe that this program is a success. He thinks, he and his office, they think that they've done a lot right when it comes to rebuilding after hurricanes, but they do not think Rebuild is a success. They're saying it's taking too long to get these people into their homes.
And what is Rebuild saying?
Rebuild said at the very first legislative hearing, the woman in charge, Laura Hogshead, said, "This is on me. This is not going how anyone wants it to go." She goes, "These are my staffing decisions and this is on me." So I asked her, if this is on you, why haven't you resigned?
Or what are you going to do about it? I mean, one way or the other.
Right.
So what is the next step in the process to try and get some relief for these people?
I will say there is a bright, shining light on this problem right now. Okay. And people will say something is finally going to happen. Only time will tell. There is a legislative hearing tomorrow on this entire issue. So the documentary airs tonight at 7:30 on WRAL. Please watch Aftermath, North Carolina Hurricane Victims Left Behind. And then tomorrow, that entire legislative committee will be meeting again, another full day of asking Rebuild, what are you doing? What is the plan? And you know what? If you can't do this, why are you still here?
Absolutely. And of course, you are going to be back with me after that.
Yes.
So we can bring our listeners up to date. So what do you think is going to happen?
What do I think is going to happen? Well, I know, based on my interviews, that at least one lawmaker is going to call for the head of Rebuild to resign. He said if this was the private sector and these were your results in the private sector, you would be gone. It doesn't matter how complicated this program is, the proof is in the numbers and the numbers are not good. So I know at least one lawmaker will call for her resignation, and then we're just going to have to see.
But is just getting rid of her the answer? I mean, it sounds like the whole system is flawed.
Right. And other states have been able to do this correctly. During that legislative hearing, we heard from this man called J.R. Sanderson. He was in charge of South Carolina's rebuilding efforts, one of the most successful rebuilding programs in the country. I mean, their numbers were so just impressive with how they were able to do this. And so there are other states. I mean, North Carolina could ask South Carolina, hey, how did you do this? It's just starting over from scratch. Is that the answer? I mean, I interviewed J.R. Sanderson for this piece. He said most programs aren't good.
Right.
And so it's really sad that in America, after a disaster, you cannot
figure out how to help people.
Exactly.
And you say that nobody knows how to do this, but we had Fran and Bertha that were right close together, and they were catastrophic. So I think we know enough about hurricanes that we should be better at this.
Right. And that is such a great point. The Governor Cooper created this office. It's called NCORE, North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency. He created NCORE because after they got all of this money, millions of dollars after Matthew, the state didn't know what to do. They were slow spenders, according to HUD. They couldn't figure it out. So he created NCORE. NCORE's in charge of rebuild. So their entire goal, purpose, point is to do this.
And it's not working.
Right.
Any final thoughts before we end this segment? And of course, we'll be back with a new segment after the hearing.
I would just like to thank the families who talked with us and allowed us to spend time with them and let us be in their hotel rooms and just really share what this has been like. I'd like to say, even if this doesn't affect you or, someone a hurricane, we live in North Carolina. Hurricanes could happen at any time. This could be your neighborhood. And we all need to make sure that these programs are working and helping the people who need help the most.
Yeah, it's a human issue.
Right.
And one more time, where and when can people watch the documentary?
7:30 tonight. It's called Aftermath, North Carolina Hurricane Victims Left Behind. It will air on WRAL on TV, or you can watch it on YouTube at 8 o'clock. Just go to the WRAL documentary YouTube channel.
Great. Thank you so much, Cristin. Really appreciate your insight into this complex issue. This has been the WRAL Daily Download, a production of WRAL News. Check out my 2 true crime podcasts. What Remains focuses on solving cold cases with forensic science. Follow the Truth is about the murder of Michael Jordan's father in North Carolina in 1993. Find What Remains and Follow the Truth in your podcast app.